Hey there, hope your day is off to a great start. And thank you for taking a moment to join me for today's 5 for 5. Well, this is Thanksgiving week, and I wanted to take a second to talk to you about that. Not so much the holiday, but about the whole topic of Thanksgiving. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 18, it says, "In everything give thanks, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." In everything give thanks. So I wrote about this a little bit in the newsletter that went out this past Friday, but I kind of wanted to expand it just a little bit. And so, I think there's some significance to the fact that God doesn't say in that passage, "For everything give thanks." Now, maybe I'm missing it here, but I think there's some significance to that. And yet God does tell us, "In everything be thanks." Here's kind of what I think about this. I mean, should a person who's been diagnosed with a terminal disease thank God for that, for example? Should a person whose house burns to the ground and they lose all their possessions, should that person thank God for the fire that devastated their family or that devastated their life? I don't know if that verse is necessarily telling us to do that. And in the same way, should we thank God for this coronavirus that has killed thousands of people, that has upset really the whole world? Does God want us to thank Him for that? Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't necessarily think that He wants us to. But we should thank Him in the midst of those kinds of circumstances. Take COVID-19, for example. I don't know if He necessarily expects us to thank Him for that disease. Disease was not part of God's intent to begin with. It only came after sin entered His creation. However, in the midst of COVID, right, there are so many things that in that circumstance we can be thankful for. We can be thankful that for some of us, God has really changed our pace of life. He's caused us to take inventory of those things that matter the most. And for some of you, you've really made some life adjustments because of all the things that came through COVID back during 3-4 months of pretty much isolation. Maybe you were reminded of some things that matter more than some of those other things that were priority at one point. I know for our family, we spent a lot of time together, and that was a real blessing. And so for you, maybe there are lots of things that you think of in the midst of this circumstance that you can thank God for. You can be thankful in that circumstance. So here's why I think it's important for us to be thankful in all circumstances, not just because the Bible tells us to be, but really when you think about it, if we're thankful in all circumstances, even in worldwide viruses, right, that shake up the whole world, what that does is it takes our attention and our focus off of the circumstance and it puts it on Christ. Right? It puts it on God, and it helps us to move our eyes off of whatever it is that's troubling us, whatever hardship we face, and it puts our attention on God. And yet at the same time, when we're thankful in the midst of all circumstances, it reminds us that God is at work at a level deeper than sometimes we often see. And when we're thankful in all things, even the difficult, even the immensely challenging times that we go through, that gratitude helps us to remember that, this hardship will one day pass, but wrapped up in it are lots of good things that I can be grateful for. I think about Joseph in the Old Testament. He could have found it really hard, and I'm sure he did. And I don't know that he would have thanked God for the fact that his brothers passed him off as dead, that they threw him in a pit, that they sold him off into slavery. I don't know that he thanked God for those things. They were horrible experiences to go through. But you know what? I'm sure that Joseph thanked God in those circumstances because God had given him a vision of what he would one day do. And there were many other things that Joseph could be thankful for back in the book of Genesis. And so one day he would look back and thank God that he had a plan all along. And you know what? You and I can do the same thing as well. So this Thanksgiving, there may be some circumstances you face that it's hard to thank God for because they're so difficult. You know what? That might be okay. But be sure to thank Him in those circumstances because He's working beneath the surface. If you have a relationship with Him, He's not going to leave you high and dry. And at the same time, when you thank Him in those circumstances, it gets your attention on a God who has everything sorted out and who's for you and who has a plan for you because He loves you. And I hope you have a great, great Thanksgiving week this week. God bless you.